The first thing I need you to understand is that humans are insane. Completely, utterly, catastrophically insane. I am Theral, a senior xenobiologist for the Galactic Coalition, and I have spent 17 standard cycles studying over 400 species across 92 worlds. I hold 3 doctoral equivalents. I have documented everything from the crystallized thought forms of Pentaurus 9 to the volcanic serpents of the Ashfall territories. I thought I had seen it all. Then the humans invited us to Earth. It will be a cultural exchange, they said. Bring your younglings, they said. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Everything could go wrong. The nightmare began on what humans call a Tuesday, which is apparently the worst day of their 7-day cycle, according to their cultural documentation. I should have taken that as an omen. My team consisted of myself, 2 junior researchers named Cleth and Voren, and 12 adolescent students from various coalition species. We were visiting something called a wildlife preserve in a region humans refer to as the Kalahari. The heat was oppressive. My secondary breathing slits were working overtime just to keep my core temperature regulated. Cleth, a Vorathi with moisture-dependent skin, looked absolutely miserable despite the cooling vest we had provided. The human guide, a weathered female named Dr. Amara Okonkwo, seemed perfectly comfortable in what could only be described as apocalyptic temperatures. Now then, Dr. Okonkwo began, her voice carrying that peculiar human enthusiasm that always precedes disaster. Before we enter the observation zone, I need to review the safety protocols. She gestured to a holographic display showing various Earth creatures. Most looked harmless enough. Small, furry. The kind of things you would display in a petting enclosure. The Kalahari is home to many incredible species. We have meerkats, springboks, various bird species, and, she paused, and I swear to the eternal void, she smiled. Actually smiled. We also have apex predators, lions, leopards, cheetahs, and, of course, the honey badger. Honey badger? Cleth's translator struggled with the phrase, is it a creature that produces sweet sustenance? Dr. Okonkwo's smile widened. This should have been my second warning. In a manner of speaking, they do raid beehives, but that is definitely not their primary characteristic. She pulled up an image. The creature was maybe 60 centimeters long, black and white, with small rounded ears and relatively short legs. It looked, and I cannot emphasize this enough, completely harmless, like something you would give to a juvenile as a companion pet. This, Dr. Okonkwo announced, with what I now recognize as deeply ironic pride, is the most fearless animal on Earth. They attack buffalo. They fight lions. They have been documented raiding crocodile nests. Their skin is so tough that most predators cannot bite through it. They are resistant to venom from some of the deadliest snakes on our planet. And when threatened, they become extremely aggressive. Voren, who specialized in predator behavior, raised one of his 3 arms. Surely, that is hyperbole? Something that small could not possibly challenge a creature hundreds of times its mass. The human's expression turned serious. I have seen a honey badger chase off 6 lions from a kill, not because it was starving, because it wanted to, because it could. These animals do not understand the concept of retreat. They do not acknowledge superior force. They fight until they win, or until they physically cannot continue. She let that sink in. Under no circumstances should anyone approach, provoke, or otherwise interact with a honey badger if we encounter one. Is that absolutely clear? We all agreed. Obviously. Who would be stupid enough to antagonize such a creature? I forgot. Humans had children on this expedition too. The observation zone was a massive enclosed area, perhaps 3 square kilometers, that allowed various species to roam in their natural habitat, while visitors observed from elevated walkways and reinforced viewing stations. The enclosure was designed to keep dangerous predators separated from guests, while maintaining an authentic ecosystem feel. Our group clustered at the primary observation deck, which overlooked a watering hole. Several four-legged ungulates, which Dr. Okonkwo identified as springboks, drank cautiously at the edge. Birds I could not name circled overhead. It was, I had to admit, quite beautiful. The human children in the group were aged between 6 and 10 standard years, which Dr. Okonkwo assured us was old enough to follow basic safety instructions. They seemed excited, but controllable. The coalition younglings stayed close to their assigned guardians, properly cautious in this alien environment. Then, I heard the roar. It came from beyond a rock formation about 200 meters from our position. Deep, guttural, and unmistakably predatory. The springboks scattered instantly. Birds erupted from nearby trees. Every coalition youngling froze in place, which was the appropriate survival response. "Lion," Dr. Okonkwo said calmly, placing one hand on the railing. Probably just announcing his territory. Nothing to worry about. The barriers between zones are completely secure. But then, something else emerged from the opposite direction. It was one of the honey badgers. The creature waddled into view with an almost comical gait, nose to the ground, apparently tracking something. It seemed completely unaware of the massive predator whose territorial roar was still echoing across the preserve. "Oh boy," Dr. Okonkwo muttered. "This could get interesting." The lion appeared moments later. It was enormous, maybe 200 kilograms of muscle, teeth, and predatory instinct. Its mane was full and dark, indicating a mature male in his prime. When it saw the honey badger, it paused, perhaps confused by what appeared to be an easy meal wandering directly into its territory. What happened next defied all logical predator-prey dynamics. The honey badger looked up, saw the lion, and charged. Not fled, not postured, charged. This creature, which could comfortably fit inside my cargo pack, launched itself at something that could swallow it whole. The sound it made, this chittering, hissing, growling combination, somehow seemed louder than the lion's roar. "Sweet, merciful void," Cleth whispered. The lion, clearly taken aback by this suicidal response, actually backed up several steps. The honey badger continued its assault, snapping at the lion's legs and face with complete disregard for its own safety. The lion swatted at it, massive paws that could shatter bones, but the honey badger's loose skin allowed it to twist and turn, avoiding the worst of the strikes. Then it latched onto the lion's nose. The lion roared, no longer in territorial challenge, but in genuine pain and surprise. It shook its head violently, trying to dislodge the honey badger, but the smaller animal held on with what appeared to be supernatural grip strength. The lion pawed at its own face, fell backward, rolled over, and finally managed to throw the honey badger several meters away. The logical response would have been for the honey badger to use this opportunity to escape. Instead, it got up, shook itself off, and charged again. "Is this normal?" I asked Dr. Okonkwo, my voice perhaps higher pitched than professional dignity would prefer. "Unfortunately, yes. The honey badger will not stop. It does not understand stopping. The lion will eventually decide this meal is not worth the effort and leave." "Eventually?" "Give it another minute or two." She was right. After several more exchanges, each one seemingly more violent than the last, the lion retreated. Not slowly and with dignity, but with considerable haste, occasionally looking back to ensure it was not being pursued. The honey badger watched it go, made one final aggressive chittering sound, and then went back to whatever it had been doing before the interruption, as if routing a creature 5 times its size was just another standard Tuesday activity. The human children thought this was hilarious. They laughed and pointed and celebrated the honey badger's victory like it was some kind of sporting event. The coalition younglings looked traumatized. "Now that," one human boy said loudly, "was awesome." "His name," I would later learn, was Marcus Chen. Sorry. No, not Chen. Marcus Holloway. He was 8 standard years old, had brown hair that stuck up at odd angles, and possessed that uniquely human combination of curiosity and complete lack of survival instinct that characterizes their young. Did you see how he just went for it? Marcus continued, gesturing enthusiastically. No fear. Just bam! Right at the lion. A human girl standing next to him, Emma Santiago, nodded vigorously. My dad says honey badgers are the toughest animals on Earth. They don't care about anything. Dr. Okonkwo cleared her throat. While the honey badger is certainly remarkable, I want to reiterate that you should never, under any circumstances, approach one. What you just witnessed is exactly why. They do not differentiate between threats. If they feel provoked, they will attack. Size does not matter. Numbers do not matter. They simply react. But they're so cool, Marcus protested. Cool and dangerous are not mutually exclusive, Dr. Okonkwo replied firmly. In fact, on Earth, they frequently coincide. Now, let's move to the next observation point. I believe we can see some meerkats from there, which are significantly less likely to cause nightmares. The group began moving along the elevated walkway. I fell back slightly, taking up a position near the rear to ensure none of the coalition younglings strayed from the Dia group. Cleth did the same from the middle, while Vorin led from the front with Dr. Okonkwo. That was when I noticed Marcus had stopped walking. He was staring down at something below the walkway, his expression intense and focused in that way human children get when they have made a spectacularly bad decision but have not yet acted on it. I followed his gaze and felt my respiratory system seize up. Another honey badger was directly below us, perhaps 3 meters down, digging at the base of a tree. This one was larger than the first, its black and white coat dusty from excavation work. It was completely absorbed in its task, which appeared to involve extracting something from a burrow. Marcus was leaning against the railing, watching it with obvious fascination. Marcus, I said carefully, moving closer. We should rejoin the group. He glanced at me, then back at the honey badger. It's so close. I just want a better look. Dr. Okonkwo was very clear about maintaining distance from these creatures. I'm not going to bother it. I just want to see what it's digging for. Before I could respond, the honey badger extracted something from the burrow. It was a snake. Very much alive. Very much venomous based on the distinctive hood, now flaring around its head. The honey badger shook it once, like a human child shaking a toy, and then proceeded to eat it, head first, while the snake was still coiling and striking. Whoa! Marcus breathed. The honey badger, apparently sensing observation, looked up. Its small black eyes locked onto Marcus. For a moment, nothing happened. The universe held its breath. Then, the most catastrophically stupid thing occurred. Marcus waved. He actually waved at the honey badger like they were friends meeting at a social gathering. The honey badger stopped eating. The snake, still partially alive, dangled from its mouth like some nightmare from a fever dream. The honey badger continued staring. Marcus, I hissed, stop. Moving. Stop making eye contact. We need to leave. Now. It's fine, Marcus whispered back. Animals can sense fear. If I'm calm, it'll be calm. I wanted to explain that honey badgers did not care about calm. They did not care about fear or confidence or diplomatic posturing. They cared only about territory and food and destroying anything they perceived as a challenge. But before I could articulate any of this, something else happened. Something worse. A coalition youngling, a small Pytharian named Zeb, had noticed Marcus at the railing and come over to investigate. Zeb was barely 4 standard years old, covered in soft blue fur, with large eyes that took up nearly half of his face. He was, in technical terms, adorable. He was also standing directly next to Marcus, looking down at the honey badger with innocent curiosity. The honey badger finished eating the snake, just swallowed the entire thing in 3 efficient bites. Then it looked up again, first at Marcus, then at Zeb, and it began climbing toward us. "Dr. Okonkwo," I shouted, abandoning all pretense of calm. "We have a situation." The walkway was designed to be inaccessible to ground animals. The supports were smooth metal, too wide and too slick to climb. Except no one had apparently explained this to the honey badger. It dug its claws into microscopic imperfections in the metal and hauled itself upward with grim determination. When it could not find purchase, it jumped to the next support beam and continued ascending. "Get away from the railing!" Dr. Okonkwo was running toward us now, her earlier calm completely evaporated. "Everyone back! Now!" The other children and younglings scattered, but Marcus, either frozen in fear or hypnotized by what was happening, remained at the railing. Zeb, sensing danger but confused by the commotion, grabbed onto Marcus's leg. The honey badger reached a crossbeam 2 meters below the walkway platform. There was no possible way for it to cover that remaining distance. The gap was too wide. The angle was too steep. Physics itself said no. The honey badger jumped anyway. It caught the edge of the walkway with its front claws, dangled for one terrible moment, and then hauled itself up and over the railing with strength that should have been impossible for something its size. It landed 1 meter from Marcus and Zeb, chittering, hissing, every centimeter of its body language screaming aggression and challenge. Marcus, to his credit, finally recognized the danger. He grabbed Zeb and tried to back away, but his feet tangled, and both of them went down hard on the walkway deck. The honey badger advanced, step by step, that same horrible chittering growing louder. Dr. Okonkwo was still 10 meters away. Voren and Cleth were too far to help. The other humans were screaming. The coalition younglings were making distress calls in 17 different languages. I did the only thing I could think of. I stepped between the honey badger and the children. I am not a brave individual. I am a researcher. I study creatures from safe distances behind proper containment barriers, but something about seeing that small blue Pitharian child, his eyes wide with terror, made me move before thinking. The honey badger stopped, looked at me. 6 eyes, compound visual organs capable of seeing in spectrums humans cannot perceive, met those small black predator eyes. "Nice creature," I attempted, though my translator was probably rendering it as gibberish. "Good creature. We mean no harm. We are simply leaving now." The honey badger tilted its head slightly. Then it opened its mouth and made a sound I will hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life. Not a roar, not a growl. Something worse. A bubbling, hissing, chittering scream that seemed to come from some ancient, primordial place where concepts like mercy and proportional response did not exist. Then it charged. At me. And that is where this particular disaster truly began. Time does funny things when you are about to be mauled by an earth predator, roughly the size of a small storage container. Everything slowed down. I could see Dr. Okonkwo still running, her mouth open mid-shout. I could see Marcus clutching Zeb, both of them scrambling backward on the metal deck. I could see Voren reaching for something in his equipment pack. And I could see, with absolute crystal clarity, every centimeter of the honey badger as it launched itself at my center mass. What I did next was not heroic. It was not calculated. It was pure, instinctive panic. I threw my data tablet at it. The device, a standard coalition model weighing approximately half a kilogram, struck the honey badger square in the face mid-leap. This did not stop the animal. It did not even slow it down, but it did anger it considerably. The honey badger landed, shook its head once, and the chittering sound increased in both volume and apparent fury. "Theral, move!" Dr. Okonkwo had reached us, pulling some kind of device from her belt. It looked like a small cylinder, with a trigger mechanism. She aimed and pressed. A sharp hissing sound filled the air, followed by a cloud of pressurized gas that enveloped the honey badger. The animal stopped mid-charge, not because it was hurt or frightened, but because it was suddenly very confused about where its target had gone. The gas was some kind of olfactory disruptor, temporarily overwhelming the creature's sense of smell. Dr. Okonkwo used this momentary confusion to grab both children, haul them to their feet, and shove them toward Voron. "Everyone off this platform! Secondary observation deck! Go, go, go!" The group did not need to be told twice. There was a stampede of feet, claws, and various locomotive appendages as every single person and youngling fled toward the emergency exit door 30 meters away. I ran faster than I have ever run in my entire life, which, admittedly, is not very fast by human standards, but felt absolutely breakneck to me. Behind us, the honey badger recovered from the gas attack. I could hear it, that chittering sound growing louder again, mixed now with the clang of claws on metal as it pursued us along the walkway. "It is still following!" Cleth screamed, his moisture vest leaving a trail of water droplets as he sprinted. "Of course, it is still following!" I shouted back. "You saw what it did to the lion. Why would we be any different?" We reached the emergency door. Voron slammed his palm against the access panel. Nothing happened. "It requires a biometric scan," he yelled. "Whose biometric scan?" "Human! It requires a human biometric scan." Dr. Okonkwo shoved past us, pressed her entire hand against the panel, and the door slid open with maddening slowness. The honey badger was 15 meters away, then 10, then 5. We piled through the opening like water through a burst dam. Bodies pressed together, dignity forgotten, survival paramount. Dr. Okonkwo came through last, pulled the emergency release, and the door slammed shut just as the honey badger reached it. The sound of claws scraping against metal echoed through the enclosed stairwell. Then came the thuds. The honey badger was throwing itself against the door, not testing it, not probing for weakness, just repeatedly hurling its entire body at the barrier that separated it from its prey. "How long will that door hold?" I asked, trying to regulate my breathing. Dr. Okonkwo checked a panel beside the door. "It is reinforced titanium rated for a 5-ton impact force, so probably indefinitely against something that weighs 20 kilograms. Thud, thud, thud. Then why is it still trying?" She looked at me with an expression that mixed respect, fear, and something that might have been pride. "Because it is a honey badger. It does not care about physics or logic. It will keep trying until something else distracts it, or until it physically cannot continue." Emma Santiago, one of the human children, raised her hand like we were in some kind of educational session rather than fleeing for our lives. "Dr. Okonkwo, are we going to die?" "No, Emma. We are perfectly safe now. The honey badger cannot get through that door." "But what if there are more honey badgers?" Dr. Okonkwo's expression suggested this was not a question she wanted to consider. "Let us proceed to the main facility building. Quickly but calmly. No running. Running attracts attention from predators." "We were just running from a predator," Marcus pointed out. "That was different. That was fleeing. Now we are walking with purposeful intent. Completely different thing." I was approximately 60% certain she was making this up, but I was not about to argue with the human who had just saved us from being converted into honey badger food. We descended the stairwell and emerged into a service corridor that ran beneath the main observation areas. The walls were concrete, the lighting was harsh fluorescent tubes, and everything smelled faintly of disinfectant and animal musk. It was not pleasant, but it was significantly better than being outside with homicidal wildlife. "The main building is 200 meters east," Dr. Okonkwo explained, consulting a wall-mounted map. "We will take the underground maintenance tunnel, completely safe, climate-controlled. 0 chance of honey badger incursion." Famous last words. We had made it perhaps 50 meters when the lights went out. Not gradually. Not with warning. Just instant. complete darkness that swallowed everything. The coalition younglings immediately began making distress sounds. Several of the human children started crying. I activated my personal illuminator, a small device worn on my chest that provided basic lighting in low-visibility situations. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls, floor, ceiling, and approximately 7 pairs of eyes staring back at us from the far end of the corridor. "Dr. Okonkwo," I said very carefully, "why are there meerkats in the maintenance tunnel?" She followed my light beam. "Those are not meerkats." The creatures moved forward into the light. They were low to the ground, powerfully built, with the distinctive black and white coloring that I was rapidly learning to associate with imminent danger. "How many honey badgers are in this facility?" Voron demanded. "Officially? 4, a mated pair and 2 juveniles from last season. And unofficially? Well, we had a population boom last breeding cycle. The juveniles reached maturity faster than anticipated. So currently, maybe 9, possibly 11. I would need to check the tracking database." Dr. Okonkwo squinted into my light beam. "Huh, so there are. That is unusual. Honey badgers are typically solitary. Seeing them grouped like this is extremely rare. What would cause them to group? Usually, nothing. They are territorial and aggressive, even with each other. The only time we see pack behavior is when—" She trailed off. Her expression changed. "Oh no. Oh no? What does oh no mean? Nothing good ever follows oh no." The maintenance tunnel runs directly under the breeding den. If something disturbed the den, if the females felt their young were threatened, they might coordinate a defensive response. What could have disturbed the den? She looked at the ceiling. Water was dripping from several places where pipes had apparently sprung leaks. The walkway incident. When the honey badger climbed up, it destabilized one of the support columns. The vibrations must have traveled through the structure and affected the den area. So we accidentally threatened their babies, and now a pack of vengeful mothers is blocking our only escape route? That is a dramatically accurate summary, yes. The honey badgers began advancing. Slowly, deliberately. That same chittering sound building, in volume, as they moved. They were not charging yet. They were coordinating, working together, flanking positions on both sides of the corridor, cutting off any possible retreat. "Suggestions?" I asked, proud of how calm my voice sounded despite my internal organs attempting to evacuate my body through sheer panic. Dr. Okonkwo reached into her equipment pack and pulled out 3 more of the gas cylinders. "I have deterrents, but not enough for 7 animals. Best case, I can create a gap in their formation. When I do, everyone runs. No hesitation, no looking back. Just run until you reach the main building entrance. Understood?" Everyone nodded. Even the younglings understood that compliance meant survival. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark." She triggered all 3 cylinders simultaneously, creating a massive cloud of olfactory disruptor that filled the corridor. The honey badgers vanished into the fog. We ran. I have never moved so fast. My legs burned. My respiratory system screamed in protest. Behind us, the chittering sounds grew louder, multiplying, overlapping in a horrific chorus. The honey badgers had recovered faster than expected, and were pursuing with coordinated precision. Marcus was falling behind. His smaller human legs could not maintain the pace. Without thinking, I grabbed him with 2 of my forearms and carried him, his weight negligible compared to my adrenaline-fueled terror. Zeeb was riding on Voron's shoulders, blue fur standing on end. The other younglings had formed a tight cluster, moving together for protection. "Door ahead!" Dr. Okonkwo shouted. "Emergency exit to the main building! Almost there!" The honey badgers were gaining. I could hear them now, not just the chittering, but the actual footfalls, the scrape of claws on concrete. They were close. Too close. We burst through the door and into the main facility building, A modern structure with glass walls, comfortable seating areas, and absolutely no homicidal wildlife. Dr. Okonkwo hit the door control, and it sealed shut behind us. Through the small window, I could see the honey badgers pile up against the barrier, still chittering, still aggressive, still completely unwilling to abandon their pursuit. For a long moment, nobody spoke. We just stood there, gasping for breath, checking for injuries, processing what had just happened. Then, Marcus started laughing. Not nervous laughter. Genuine, delighted laughter. The kind that children make when something is simultaneously terrifying and amazing. That was incredible, he managed between giggles. Did you see them? They worked together? Like a team. Emma joined in. The way they flanked us, and when Dr. Okonkwo used the spray, and Theral grabbed you, and just ran. Soon, all the human children were laughing, recounting details, describing their favorite parts of our near-death experience, like it was some kind of entertainment program. The coalition younglings looked at them like they had lost their collective minds. Zeeb tugged on my lower arm. Researcher Theral? Why are the human children happy? We almost died. I patted his head gently. Because they are human, Zeeb. Logic does not apply to them the same way it applies to us. Dr. Okonkwo was speaking rapidly into a communication device, coordinating with facility security. I caught fragments. Containment breach. Structural damage. Need full sweep. Yes. All of them. No. Nobody injured. Remarkably lucky, actually. She finished the call and turned to address our group. Everyone, I need to sincerely apologize. This should never have happened. Our safety protocols failed. The structural integrity monitors should have detected the column damage immediately. I take full responsibility. You saved us, I pointed out. Multiple times. If anything, we owe you our lives. You would not have needed saving if the facility had been properly maintained. She ran a hand through her hair suddenly, looking exhausted. The coalition is going to file an incident report. There will be investigations, probably sanctions. This exchange program might be cancelled. Actually, Vorin spoke up. I think we should recommend expansion. Everyone stared at him. Explain, I said carefully. Think about it. Today we witnessed something extraordinary. Not the facility failure. The humans themselves. They remained calm under pressure. They adapted to changing circumstances. They used creative problem-solving when standard procedures failed. And most importantly, he gestured to the still laughing children. Their young ones learned valuable lessons about danger, survival, and appropriate caution. They learned that waving at predators makes them attack, Cleth interjected. Yes, but they will never forget that lesson. It is now permanently encoded in their young brains. Practical education. Very efficient. I looked at Dr. Okonkwo. Is this typical? Do humans regularly put their young in mortal danger for educational purposes? She smiled. Not intentionally. But humans have this saying, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. Our children learn by testing boundaries, by taking risks, by occasionally making spectacular mistakes. Today was definitely a spectacular mistake. But nobody died. Everyone learned something. And honestly, we will all have an amazing story to tell. The honey badgers, Zeeb said suddenly. What happens to them now? They will be relocated to different sections of the preserve, given extra space, more enrichment activities. We might even build them better dens. The mothers were just protecting their young. That is not bad behavior. That is good parenting. She paused. Extremely violent, terrifying good parenting, but still. Over the next hour, facility staff conducted a full security sweep. The honey badgers were gradually encouraged back to their appropriate habitats, using food lures and gentle persuasion. The damaged support column was inspected and marked for immediate repair. Our group was given comfortable seats, cold beverages, and a chance to process the afternoon's events. As the sun began to set outside the facility windows, painting the Kalahari in shades of orange and gold, I found myself sitting next to Marcus. He was drawing in a notebook, sketching crude but enthusiastic pictures of honey badgers. "You know," I said, "you were very brave today. Foolish, but brave." He looked up at me. "I thought I was going to die when it climbed the railing, but you stepped in front of us. Why did you do that?" "Honestly, I do not know. Instinct, perhaps. Or perhaps I have been around humans too long, and your insanity is contagious." He grinned. "Thanks for saving me and Zeeb. Thank you for teaching me something valuable." "What did I teach you?" "That humans are insane, but also that there are different kinds of courage. The honey badger fights everything because it knows nothing else. But you faced your fear despite knowing you could die. That is somehow more impressive." Marcus considered this. "Do you think the honey badgers were brave too?" "I think the honey badgers were being honey badgers. They do not think about bravery or fear. They simply act according to their nature." "That mother protecting her young? She was not brave. She was just being a mother?" "Like my mom. She is pretty fierce too." "I believe you." The transport arrived an hour later to take us back to the main research station. As we filed out of the facility, I took one last look at the preserve. Somewhere out there, honey badgers were going about their evening routines, hunting, digging, fighting things they had no business fighting, being generally impossible to kill or discourage, and suddenly I understood why humans had become the dominant species on Earth. They were the intelligent version of honey badgers. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most numerous, but absolutely, completely, categorically unwilling to accept defeat. They pushed boundaries. They took risks. They looked at massive predators and said, "Yes, but what if we tried anyway?" It was terrifying. It was irrational. It was magnificent. 3 weeks later, the coalition approved the continuation of the exchange program. My report had apparently been quite compelling, though I suspect the actual deciding factor was the video footage from the facility security cameras, which had been viewed approximately 9 million times across the galactic network. Humans and honey badgers, two species that should not exist according to sensible evolutionary pressure. But here they were, thriving, multiplying, teaching the rest of the galaxy valuable lessons about persistence, courage, and the strategic value of being too stubborn to die. I still have nightmares about that chittering sound, but I also have enormous respect for the honey badgers who were just protecting their families, for Dr. Okonkwo who handled an impossible situation with grace and competence, for Marcus who learned his lesson without being permanently traumatized, and for Zeeb who asked me last week if we could visit Earth again because he wants to see the creatures called elephants. I told him I would consider it, after I finish at least 6 more cycles of therapy, because I am many things. But I am not, despite what this story might suggest, completely insane. Not yet, anyway, but I am working with humans now. Give it time.